You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Parker Ainsworth, Locked On Coogs here, and we're talking Houston's future lineup in basketball, mostly because, honestly, after talking about the highly touted class coming out of a weekend where Kingston, Flemings, and Cenac absolutely dominated an all-star game, the Iverson Classic. It was talked about online a lot, like, okay, well, what does this mean for the lineup? What happens out of this? It's always a great question. It's always a great, thought process to get through at this point, because we kind of got to measure it with and without Milos Uzan. I will say at this point, I am assuming Milos Uzan is returning to Houston. I'm still seeing projections for him in the early part of the second round. That's not, to me, enough of a reason to gamble on that, not guaranteed contract kind of thing if you get picked in the second round versus if you were to leap into the late first. To me, I'd want to hear like in the early 20s, because then even if you fall a little bit, right, especially the opportunity to come back to Houston, make good NIL money. Houston's doing really well in the NIL world in basketball. Shouts to the folks in charge of that, Landon Gosling and those guys, right? But also a chance to prove that you can work on those things that the combine folks told you to work on. So with both Milos and Ramon Walker, who is seeking medical red shirt, this is the roster I've got on here for 2025, 2026. And for the folks at home that are listening on audio platforms, I'll read through this, but this is my newer version of what I'm saying as the rotations chart with Milos Uzan. I see the starters as Milos, Pop Isaacs, Manuel Sharp, Chris Cenac, JoJo Tugler. That's a new transfer in Pop Isaacs. Obviously, he comes in with a lot of minutes under his belt, having played at Texas Tech, played at Creighton, and played very well at both those instances. Kind of fills in that LJ Cryer role pretty well as a scorer. The freshman starter in this would be Chris Cenac at the 4. Honestly, this is the kind of guy, Cenac, if you have not watched him play yet, that in like a 2003 world where you could go straight out of high school, he probably would have gone straight to the NBA. He's a projected top 10 pick next year in the draft after just based off his high school stuff last year. This is a Jarris Walker kind of situation where he is signed up to be coached by Kelvin Sampson, the Coogs. He wants to come and develop his game in the way the Coogs develop players. But he's talented enough that he is going to be on the floor a lot as a freshman. Then as my rotation guys, I got Kingston, Fleming, Mercy Miller, and the backcourt, Isiah Harwell kind of playing that 3. He can also play some of the 2. I don't think he's quite a 4. Jacob McFarland, I do think is a backup 4. I think Sedlot will play a lot of the 5. We know that Sampson likes to play guys that he's had before and trusts. Sed's been in the system. He also offers a very unique type of athlete. I have end of rotation KJ at the end of the point guard rotation. Very talented point guard room. No shame in that. Chase McCarty, I think, is still a 3. So I kind of have him in that wing. I could also see him being a small ball 4. Ramon Walker, assuming he gets the medical red shirts, also being a small ball 4. And they've got Khalifa Sacco, the transfer from Sam Houston State, as the end of the bench rotation 5. I could be proven wrong in that he has size you cannot teach. We've seen what that does for Houston before. You could obviously bring one of those guys in. And I think that's what's interesting about that lineup is you've got, frankly, your second lineup there. Kingston, Mercy, Isiah, Jacob, and Sedlot probably breaks 500 in the Big 12. And I don't say that to be cocky. I say that to say that the challenge for this team is going to be not who starts games, but who finishes them. Because if both Kingston and Milos, or both Mercy and Pop, or both Isiah and Emmanuel are having strong games, how do you decide who fits in where, who can play a different position, who slides over, right? That presents challenges. And I know that early in the season, we can anticipate Kelvin trusting guys that have been around. Emmanuel, Milos, JoJo, Mercy, right? Guys that have been through the fire with him before. But as we've seen in the past, whether it was JoJo Tugler's freshman year, Manuel Sharp's freshman year, Marcus Sasser's freshman year, like guys earn his trust over the course of their freshman season, and freshmen play a lot more in February and in March, right? And so who those guys are will be interesting to watch. I imagine you'll see a lot of lineups with both Kingston and Milos as two 6'4" plus guards that can both bring the ball up with incredible speed, very different types of skills, both true point guard skill sets. Kingston, the more athletic high flyer, Milos, stronger, at this point, a much better shooter, right? Offer different kind of problems on the same court at the same time. Team could have a little problem with that, right? I do entertain the idea of what happens with no Milos Uzan because I think what you see there is actually two freshmen starting. I think this move there is to slide Kingston Fleming at the point guard spot, play Pop at the two, and then go Emmanuel, Chris, and JoJo, just like you did with Milos there. I do think, though, that Popeyes will get some rotation at the point guard spot, kind of splitting that secondary point guard with Cordell as well. I also could just see run with a lot of Kingston Flemings minutes and just say the more you learn, the better. But you got to remember when Pop slides to the point guard for some relief for Kingston there, that will be Mercy Miller at the two. That will be Emmanuel Sharp and Isiah Harwell at the floor at the same time. That will be, frankly, more opened up there. You also see, I think, more Cordell Jefferson in that lineup without Milos Uzan. I still think the big man rotation kind of feels the same. Ramon Walker and the question mark there could obviously lead to more Chase McCarty minutes and whatnot. He's coming in as a redshirt freshman, and so he's got a lot of time left in the program. So I don't think it's anything to get down about. If you're a Chase McCarty fan, there's lots of things to be a fan of in that kid. It's just a crowded room, and again, most people's top team returning in America next year, right? And so that's the way that goes. I will say, as the Debbie Downer sorts, there are guys like Cordell and Chase at the end of that bench that if you were to tell me, hey, Parker, are these guys looking to play and looking to play soon? They might look elsewhere. I don't know. The Milos Uzan decision could ultimately change what Cordell Jefferson thinks. And I'm not, and as I was mentioned, the football segment at the top of this, I'm not a love lost kind of guy. Like, if you want to find somewhere to go be successful and you've given time to this program, I don't feel any kind of way about it. I do think, though, that KJ offers a lot of toughness that this team needs, especially in those behind the scenes kinds of ways that, honestly, Malik Wilson did a couple years back when he was redshirted for transferring a second time. And he was like giving the guys all that work on defense behind the scenes. I think you see a lot of that kind of stuff out of KJ too. I say you see a lot of that kind of stuff. We don't see that kind of stuff because it's not out on television, but it's the kind of stuff that when you talk to anyone in the program, that's what's happening, right? And so I don't want him to go. I don't want Chase to go. These are talented basketball players that offer a lot to this program. It just is a team that's a shot to be the number one team in America and cut down nets next April. And that's how talented the room is when you're that kind of a team, right? Now, I also look at this lineup without Milos, and I say a lot of people will say, like, okay, you're starting two freshmen. Kelvin never does that. That's why he's going to start Pop Isaacs and Mercy Miller. And to that I say, but you're starting Pop Isaacs coming off of a year where he was injured. You'd be starting him out of position at the point guard spot. He'd be learning that position as your starter. And as much as we love watching Mercy Miller play last year as a freshman, it was sparingly. And so how much more game minutes does he really have versus if you're going to have Kingston as your point guard for hopefully a couple of years, right? He is the kind of guy with pro potential. I just don't know when it hits. It could be after his freshman year, I guess, if he had a great freshman year. My thought is, shouldn't you, just like you did with Milos last year, put him in the fire? Let him play all those Vegas minutes against top caliber opponents, right? Those games, in the grand scheme of things, don't lead to you winning the Big 12 in terms of wins and losses. They lead to winning the Big 12 in terms of experiences, right? And so if it does come down to Milos Uzan goes pro, we wish him the best of luck. I still think you'd start Kingston and you roll with the punches there. You start two freshmen, you bring Isiah Harwell in a lot. I still think Bryce Jackson ultimately redshirts unless Ramon Walker does not get his medical redshirt. You just need someone in that 14th jersey. I think that what you're going to see here is Bryce Jackson become a guy that is a developed part of this program. He can score. He can light up from the outside. He's going to continue to work on other aspects of his game missed a lot of high school hurt, right? And so he's got to work on those kinds of things. If you ask people around Houston, though, Houston Hoops guys, Shadow Creek guys, like people that knew about his high school games, like he can flat go. He just hasn't had the reps yet. So I think it's a red shirt in either situation. I say that to say a lot to unpack here. We'll know more if Milos comes back or doesn't come back. We'll know more as the offseason gets further into it. We'll know more, of course, of summer workouts, if guys change decisions or whatever. But that's all in the future, and these are all fun thought experiments. In the much more immediate future, Houston plays A&M in baseball on Tuesday night, and they're going to be in the Blues. I want to talk about what that means in a second. But first,